The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. This year's Feast of the Black Nazarene Parade was canceled in a bid to prevent the further spread of COVID-19. But still, some devotees tried to go to the Quiapo Church in Manila. For more details, we have Camille Samonte. She's reporting to us over the phone. Camille, good afternoon, or live. Camille, you're right there at Quiapo. Can you tell us the situation?
Riza, unlike the past years, there are no influx of devotees of the Black Nazarene as this year's traditional traslasyon was canceled due to the increasing COVID-19 infections. The Plaza Miranda remains empty as police officers barricade the surrounding area of the Quiapo Church on Sunday. Authorities placed plastic barriers and cordoned off roads leading to Quiapo Church to prevent devotees from coming in. Most of the establishments around the church were also closed. Masses for the Feast of the Black Nazarene will be held online due to the threat posed by the highly transmissible Omicron variant. Several devotees, however, still tried to pass through Quiapo Church, but authorities stopped them at the checkpoint. According to Manila Police District, roads around Quiapo Church will remain closed until further notice. Let's hear more from the MPD.
Tuloy pa rin yung pagsara natin ng kalsada kasi po kung hindi natin gagawin yon, lahat yan magpupuntahan dito, hindi na natin mapipigilan yung, alam nyo naman po kung gaano karami ang mga tao sa kapistahan ng Poong Nazareno. Pag yan, binuksan natin yan, talagang hindi na natin mapipigilan yan, talagang magdadagsaan yan dito.
Riza, police authorities appealed for the devotees' understanding and urged them to stay at home and join the online masses instead. Riza?
Thank you for that update. That's Camille Samonte reporting live from Manila. The Omicron variant has been fueling more and more cases since its emergence in last year. Now, John Hopkins' Andrew Bikosh tells us what this increased transmission means for the world and how this affects COVID-19's evolution. Let's watch this.
It circles around the issue of why this virus seems to be so much more transmissible. Certainly, it has mutations that can invade some of the immune responses that vaccines give you, but it really does seem like this virus is spreading better than other variants for other reasons. And right now, we don't really understand what that is, but certainly it seems like people are getting infected in conditions that previously were highly unlikely to mediate infection, and that's fueling this massive surge of cases. Transmission is something that's really difficult to study in a laboratory, but it really is one of the things that Omicron is doing fantastically better than any previous variant we've seen.
Is there a Rho or a Zeta after Omicron? I mean, I frankly like the geography designations that we used to do in the old days, but do you just assume there's another variant after this one?
There absolutely will be. This virus has already shown the ability to evolve, change, and respond to its new host humans. And it's now showing the ability to try to evade some of the immune responses that are coming down the line. I do firmly feel we're on a path to make this disease caused by this virus much more mild, much more contained, because we will have population immunity, we will have vaccines that are effectively knocking down severe disease, and we'll eventually have antivirals that are distributed to help limit that. So there are ways that we can control this disease, but this virus will be around for a long time, and it's looking more and more like we're going to have to deal with this like we deal with seasonal influenza.
Andy, when do we get to that point where we have enough, whether it's herd immunity or just immunity in the general population, with also the remedies, the antivirals, and the vaccines, where we can basically go back to life as it is, basically treat this like the common cold or the flu?
Well, I really do feel like this surge of Omicron cases is really going to be the tipping point, because with the massive number of cases, and let's be clear, some of the official counts are probably underestimates of the true number of cases that are out there right now because of a number of reasons. But this surge of Omicron cases may be what really pushes us over that border to enough immunity in the population so that transmission is limited, and therefore, the likelihood of getting infected will be a little bit lower going forward from here.
How do people avoid getting sick?
Well, it really comes down to the basic principles we've been talking about, perhaps boosted up a little bit. I'm a big believer now that people should be really thinking about wearing KN95 masks or double masking with a surgical mask and a facial covering on top of that. I think that this increased transmission of Omicron requires people to take an even greater effort to try to limit their exposures. And again, masking is one thing. The other social distancing issues that we've talked about are important to continue to do. Do as much work as you can remotely, but when you're going into situations where you're going to be exposed to people, realize that you need to up your game in terms of the things you do to protect yourself and be wary of getting infected.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Petitioners for the full disqualification of Bongbong Marcos are set to submit their respective memoranda following the preliminary conference. Greg Gregorio with the details.
The preliminary conference for 3 disqualification cases against Bongbong Marcos was delayed for an hour. The reason, Marcos himself was a no-show due to sickness.
It's Senator Marcos Jr. Manifested earlier, Your Honor. He is not feeling well and he cannot join in today's video conference. He is sick.
This infuriated Comelec 1st Division Presiding Commissioner Rowena Guanzon, who was expecting him on Zoom at least. Recalled that the cases separately filed by Ilagan et al., Akbayan et al., and Abubakar Mangelen were all raffled to the 1st Division.
Why don't you ask your client to go on Zoom? Even if it's on isolation, he can have a laptop.
His absence nearly cost him the chance to defend himself or present evidence against all the allegations.
You know the consequence under the rules? It will be submitted for decision without his memorandum, without his evidence.
But Guanzon asked his camp to simply show a medical certificate instead. The division proceeded with the stipulation and admission of issues and marking of exhibits as evidence. Among the issues discussed was Marcos's 1995 conviction for tax evasion and non-filing of income tax returns from 1982 to 1985. The Court of Appeals ruling was also highlighted, but it only affirmed the conviction on non-filing of ITRs, not on tax evasion. Marcos's camp also confirmed the conviction but defended him against disqualification.
Admission that they made, I think works for us. And like I said, it's part of the records naman.
Naniniwala kami sa legal processes natin, naniniwala kami sa rule of law, naniniwala kami sa integrity ng ating mga institutions.
At the latter part of proceedings, Bongbong Scamp presented the medical certificate from his physician stating that the former senator was exposed to at least 2 COVID-19 patients. His doctor said Marcos is now experiencing symptoms like fever, body malaise, and sore throat. The division gave the parties 48 hours to submit their respective memoranda before the division decides on the matter. Mangelen's petition, meanwhile, has been submitted for resolution due to non-appearance of the petitioner or his counsel. Aside from these, Marcos is also facing another disqualification case filed by Salandanan et al., which has been raffled to the second division. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
Let's now take a quick look at today's other top stories. President Duterte sends a message as the faithful celebrates the Feast of the Black Nazarene. In his message, Duterte asked devotees to pray for the nation's healing and recovery amid the pandemic. Recall that the government canceled Traslacion this year due to a spike in COVID-19 cases. The National Police has started the implementation of gun ban ahead of the 2022 elections. The PNP will now carry out checkpoint operations around the country until June 8. Only authorized personnel are allowed to carry firearms for the time being. And heads up, motorists, pump prices are set to increase this week. UniOil projects that the prices of diesel would increase by up to 1 peso and 10 centavos per liter. Gasoline prices are likewise expected to rise up to 80 centavos. Now, for more updates, visit News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World Online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.